faithfully delivering value, interpreting great books from around the world. Hello, this is Sally's Book Talk. Today we're exploring the book Most Likely to Succeed, Preparing Our Kids for the Innovation Era. Before the internet era, students mostly could only access knowledge through schools and teachers. Um, Teachers would transfer textbook knowledge to students who then verified mastery through exams. This was essentially a knowledge human process, moving information from books into young minds. But with internet advancement, knowledge scarcity has vanished. Just with a computer or smartphone, anyone can access endless information. So modern society needs not knowledge bandune, but clever creators who can synthesize existing wisdom and develop new concepts and technologies. Yet, alarmingly, our education system hasn't kept pace, still stuck in teacher, lecture, student, listen mode. Students cram for tests by endlessly memorizing facts and test-taking tricks, while innovation and creativity get eroded by constant examinations. The authors, Americans Tony Wagner and Ted Dintersmith, are deeply troubled by this educational crisis. Their collaboration, Most Likely to Succeed, offers profound reflection on our entire education system. Tony Wagner struggled academically as a youth, mediocre grades, twice dropping out before returning. After finally graduating, he chose teaching, having personally experienced educational flaws he hoped to fix. After teaching over a decade, he founded his own school and earned a Harvard EdD, becoming an accomplished education reformer. Ted Dintersmith, meanwhile, excelled academically. A mental math whiz since childhood. He aced math and physics throughout school, earning Stanford master's and PhD degrees. Despite his STEM brilliance, he veered into finance, becoming a prominent venture capitalist. Because he'd long realized he only had the traits of a top physics student, not those of a great physicist. Because great physicists need deep thinking and innovation, while top students just memorize formulas and problem patterns. Introduced by a friend, these like-minded educators had deep discussions and began a 5-year collaboration, producing Most Likely to Succeed and its documentary adaptation. In this book, they deeply analyze modern education's flaws and propose reforms to reshape future learning, helping children find more successful paths. All right, I'll now break down the book's content into 2 parts. First, what's wrong with modern education? Second, what should education's future look like? First, let's explore the initial question. What's wrong with modern education? To understand today's flaws, we must first understand education's evolution. History. Education traces back to primitive humans in caves. Its purpose was passing survival skills like hunting and defense to the next generation. As societies evolved, apprenticeship emerged, learning directly from skilled craftsmen. Artists, painters, carpenters, and blacksmiths learned through masters, personalized guidance. But apprenticeship had a fatal flaw. It couldn't scale for mass education. Religion surged in 14th century Europe. Many scribes were needed to copy and spread the Bible. This birthed schools, teaching Latin to monks and clergy for Bible transcription. Schools aimed for word-perfect Bible copies in minimal time. Thus, they demanded standardized learning and efficiency with zero tolerance for errors. This educational philosophy persisted unchanged for centuries and remains central today. Then in the 18th century, industrialization demanded skilled machine operators, giving rise to Prussia's education system. Under the Prussian education system, students primarily learned survival skills for work and society, including basic literacy and assembly line capabilities, differing from apprenticeships. In industrial society, assembly line operations didn't require master craftsmen, just workers who could follow orders and perform simple, repetitive tasks. Prussian education evolved into the early 20th century, forming an educational model called the assembly line. As the name implies, the educational model became an assembly line. Students were like parts on an assembly line, incrementally adding listening, speaking, reading, and writing skills, while mastering repetitive tasks. Thus, every student learned identical content to meet industrial demands for worker skills. By the mid 20th century, America's education model shifted toward cultivating knowledge workers who produce, refine, and manage information. The privacy, the core focus was equipping everyone with maximal knowledge to serve fields like law, finance, and medicine. Under this knowledge worker education system, students' goals were crystal clear. Complete 12 years of K-12 education, gain university admission for advanced study, earn diplomas, then enter industries based on degree prestige. In this process, college entrance exam scores were paramount, determining university placement and career paths. Against K-12 curricula were designed solely for exam preparation and score maximization. Children's personal interests were entirely sidelined by the system. Consider Jacob, an energetic boy brimming with curiosity about his surroundings. In seventh grade, he taught himself coding, co-designed websites with friends, and even launched a web design business. But upon entering high school, heavy exam pressures forced him into conventional cramming like his peers. His career plans mirrored the majority: target a top finance program, secure a banking job, and earn big. Through relentless study, Jacob achieved his goal: admission to the University of Washington's finance program. Yet he graduated right into the 2009 financial crisis. In 2011, the finance sector froze hiring nationwide, leaving him unemployed upon graduation. After repeated job rejections, Jacob moved to Los Angeles and joined an entertainment agency. Starting with basic clerical tasks, he worked his way up over 5 years to become a talent agent. This career had zero connection to his childhood computing skills or college finance major. Jacob stated unequivocally that given a second chance, he'd skip college entirely. His frustration stems entirely from high school and college, failing to support his career development. Also, where exactly do today's high school and college systems go wrong? Jacob's experience shows his exceptional programming and web design skills in middle school. But in high school, when nurturing interests mattered most, he wasted all that time on test prep. High school curricula boil down to 6 words: teach only what's tested for college admissions. Take math. Standardized tests measure memorized formulas, calculation speed, and accuracy, zero innovation. Math scores carry 50% weight in U.S. college entrance exams, dictating university prospects. Colleges demand not just high school math mastery, but also calculus completion before graduation. But what practical use does calculus actually serve? How many adults ever use calculus in their jobs? A 2013 NCEE report reveals only 5% of adults use calculus, mostly teachers teaching it. Practical statistics and data analysis remain untaught. Similarly, science courses, which should foster creativity, now mirror math's rote learning approach. Segregated into physics, chemistry, and biology, they force students to memorize definitions, formulas, and lab procedures. In physics classes covering electricity, teachers demand students master concepts like current and resistance, plus Ohm's law, Joule's law, etc. But they never discuss how city or national power grids actually operate and what causes large-scale blackouts or how radiation impacts power systems. Students just need to accurately transfer textbook formulas onto exams for correct answers. After grueling efforts to enter college, does university education actually enhance career development skills? Regrettably, under the current system, it doesn't. 2 scholars tracked American students' test performance to see if critical thinking, complex reasoning, and writing improved after 4 years. This collegiate learning assessment features open-ended questions. For example, a company plans to buy a private jet. After CEO approval, news breaks of an identical model disintegrating mid-flight. The question provides accident reports, performance specs, feature lists, etc. Students must determine Based on existing data analysis, was the crash caused by this model's wing design? How did you reach this conclusion? What other factors contributed? Should the company still purchase this jet? This question sounds simple, but demands data synthesis, sound analysis, and strong writing. Students must clearly articulate their reasoning. Tracking 2,300 students across 20 plus universities over 4 years, the scholars found only 36% showed improved test scores, meaning most students saw no significant gain in critical thinking, complex reasoning, or writing, the most vital skills. Worse still, these 4 years not only failed to build cognitive abilities, but also create immense financial and emotional strain. First comes the financial pressure on families. Universities demand ever higher academic achievements, while elite schools lower admission rates to maintain diploma scarcity. Thus, families must invest heavily in tutoring for college prep, then shoulder crushing tuition and living expenses. Some American families raid retirement accounts or take second mortgages to fund education. Many students also shoulder crippling debt during college. About 2 million Americans over 60 still carry student loans. Beyond finances, students endure immense psychological pressure. Take Amy Chua, America's famous Tiger Mom, who raised two Harvard grads and wrote a bestseller about it. That her daughters bore extraordinary psychological burdens unknown to average kids. In their household, even making birthday cards was deemed wasteful. Despite Harvard degrees, they had no friends, having only studied, never socialized, and such cases aren't rare. Facing academic overload and college adjustment struggles, students' mental health is alarming. A 2010 American College Health Association survey found 30.7% of students felt severely depressed, struggling to function normally. Worse still, schools prioritize brand building over student support. They obsess over climbing annual university rankings. Rankings hinge on 5 factors: admission rates, reputation, freshman scores, research funding, and graduation rates. None measure actual learning. Universities just recruit the best students. They disregard educational quality, leaving post-graduation employment solely to graduates. The Associated Press reported more 2011 graduates worked as waiters and bartenders than as engineers, physicists, or mathematicians. If after 4 years of college, students end up as restaurant servers, is this really higher education's purpose? All right, that concludes our first section. Modern education evolved from apprenticeships into standardized test prep factories. Students mechanically follow routines, get graded, then enter college. There, they face enormous financial and psychological pressures while learning irrelevant skills for real-world challenges. Given these flaws, what should ideal future education look like? This brings us to our second question today. As mentioned earlier, future societies need clever creators, those who apply knowledge, not just band unit. So what abilities do these creators require? The authors identify 10 future-proof skills in this book. First, learn to actively acquire knowledge rather than passively absorb teacher lectures. Second, master effective communication, oral, written, and public speaking. Third, collaborate effectively as team members. Fourth, solve problems creatively, not by seeking standard answers. Fifth, build resilience to handle risks and failures. Sixth, become leaders and change makers, not blind followers. Seventh, make sound decisions through critical prioritization. Eighth, set goals and execute them systematically. Ninth, develop perseverance and self-motivation. 10th, transcend self-interest with broad-minded vision. Channel your passion and talents to impact the world. These 10 skills shape character, thinking patterns, learning agility, and decision-making. Cultivating them requires systemic change, not individual effort, from society, schools, and families. At institutional levels, we need radical reforms in teaching, assessment, and teacher training. Return educational autonomy to teachers and students, specifically step by step. Shift from teacher-led lectures to student-driven classrooms. What does that mean? First, let's look at an example. Eric Mazur, head of Harvard's Applied Physics Department, runs his class by posing a question, letting students think independently, then answer. Then, based on different answers, the class forms small groups to discuss for minutes before presenting their views and reasoning. Students then resubmit answers and regroup based on outcomes. Throughout this, Professor Mazur offers no opinions, hints, or answers. Students solve everything themselves. This method is called peer instruction. The Chinese term tong yi, tong qi, combines the person radical with neat, meaning peer-to-peer teaching, compared to teachers spoon-feeding conclusions. This approach's benefit is clear. It cultivates independent thinking. When peers' answers differ, they learn to critically evaluate opposing views. Plus, group work builds communication and collaboration skills. Step 2. Shift assessment from standardized tests to a badge system. Both standardized tests and diplomas are convenient time savers. They let people effortlessly sort students into top, average, poor performers without observing other qualities. But even Google's senior VP of People Operations admits minimal overlap between academic and real-world success skills. Google job ads omit university requirements. 15% of employees lack degrees. So how do we spot talent without shiny credentials? The authors propose a badge system to evaluate diverse abilities. And take high schoolers. Graduation no longer means just finishing courses and passing one exam. They must earn 4 badges: analytical literary critique, social research report, original scientific experiment, and advanced math application. These cover literary analysis, social surveys, statistics, data analysis, mathematical modeling, and scientific principles for experiments. In a badge-oriented system, students can customize their learning schedules and subjects for truly personalized education. Earning badges requires substantial work, regularly presenting projects to peers, teachers, and parents, then defending their work. Much like thesis defenses, this system replaces single exam judgments with lifelong tracking starting at enrollment. And each student maintains a portfolio documenting all badge-related assignments and projects. Universities and employers assess candidates through these tangible works, not cold scores or diplomas. With this system, students can secure ideal jobs without college degrees by demonstrating competencies. Step 3. Revamp teacher training, currently mirroring passive student learning models. Teachers waste hours listening to theoretical lectures and taking exams. China produces 100,000 teaching graduates yearly. Many teach after just 5 weeks training. The authors cite Finland's exemplary teacher development model. First, Finland closed 80% of normal schools, retaining only elite university-affiliated programs to ensure top-tier educators. Second, every Finnish teacher undergoes a full-year apprenticeship. They shadow master teachers throughout this year. Finally, Finnish teachers teach only 600 hours per semester, nearly half of American teachers' 1,100 hours, freeing time for parent engagement and peer collaboration. Additionally, the authors propose replacing rankings with teacher portfolios containing lesson videos, student work, and progress comparisons, letting student outcomes drive improvement. However, achieving a complete overhaul of the entire education system at a macro level is incredibly difficult. Therefore, parents can at least start making incremental changes right now. For example, parents can find more suitable online learning resources for their kids, or carve out leisure time from packed schedules so children can freely explore hobbies and interests. Play basketball, read favorite books, strum guitars, or build Lego robots, cultivating interesting humans, not exam machines. All right, that concludes part 2. Future education must cultivate clever creators. Thus, first shift from teacher-led instruction to self-motivated, student-driven learning. Second, transform assessment from grades and diplomas to a badge system, competency-based, letting students choose relevant courses. Third, reform teacher training using Finland's model, enhancing quality while freeing time for student and parent engagement. Finally, the authors urge parents to start now, curate online resources, and preserve free time. While critiquing American education, this book boldly innovates future directions. Many recommendations also merit Chinese educators' attention for reimagining children's education. That's our interpretation for today. Find reading notes below the audio. See you tomorrow.